Hello, Health Accelerator family. I'm going to get us going live on Facebook and then we will get started. I hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend so far. We're halfway through March and getting ready to close out first quarter of 2025. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the U factor. This is a concept that I think is really powerful because it's very common to feel like we don't really know exactly what's going on. We can't figure out where we're different. And I think this is where it comes into a couple different things. Okay. So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. I want to share some stories, share some really tips on mindset, on how to work through those challenges where it feels like you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. You're following the plan, you're following everything, but maybe you're not quite getting the results that you want. And it's just one simple change that needs to be made. We're going to talk tonight about the U factor. Okay. Doesn't mean that you are the problem, doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. What it means is you have the power to make the progress you want to make and to reach the goals that you've set for yourself. If you're watching live, go ahead, just drop a hashtag live in the chat. If you are watching the replay, just drop a hashtag replay. Doesn't matter when you get the information, just as long as you are getting the information. We talk so much about the three pillars: what we eat, what we think, and what we do. And when it comes to the U factor, a lot of that has to do with the what you think. And we talked about how to script, how to really make sure we're maximizing our scripting processes. But what I want to talk about tonight is how we can make one little change into the what we think and how that can make a huge difference in the way that we approach the rest of the day. Many of us are already planning ahead because failure to prepare and failure to plan is really planning to fail. We hear that time and time again in all areas of our lives. And so when we talk about the U factor, when we talk about the what we think, it's really important to plan, to have the positive thoughts, to have that positive mindset so that we can combat anything that comes at us that may not be totally what we're needing to hear, wanting to hear, or what's in alignment with what we are doing. So if you have any wins for the week, I want you to go ahead and share those in the chat. I know we've had lots of wins, lots of people following the process, trusting the process, and lots of wins as far as progress goes. Okay, so drop those in the chat so we can celebrate with you. I'm really excited for the opt-in that we've seen and how many people are showing up consistently for themselves. That's what it's all about, showing up so that you can become the healthiest version of yourself. When we talk about scripting, we talk about writing things as if they have already happened. Now, the important thing here is to remember that we don't want to write something if we totally do not believe it. We don't want to write that down on paper because our mind subconsciously is going to combat that. But what we can do is just start to change the way we think little by little, step by step. I want to give you an example. Many of you have heard me share the story about how I scripted my way into loving green vegetables. I started to write, I do love green vegetables every single day. Okay, I didn't necessarily, but I was eating them because I knew that they were on the plan. I knew that that was going to get me to where I was going. But what that did do was make it a little bit more positive. So then I was able to start enjoying the meals. It wasn't a I have to, it was an I get to. I just recently had a conversation with somebody that they were asking me about their roles and responsibilities in terms of leadership positions. And they were saying, so I have to do this. And I just looked at them. I said, oh no. I said, you have the opportunity. You get to do this. And they just kind of looked at me for a second and they said, thank you for that perspective. Because when we think about it in terms of I have to do this, that's when it gets really frustrating sometimes. And we feel deprived. We feel like we're not where we want to be. But if we can switch our mindset to say, I get to do this, I get to wake up early and tackle the what I do by getting my workout done. I get to eat clean. I get to plan for healthy meals. I get to make sure I'm fueling myself with the things that make my body feel good and that keep the inflammation down and that really help move me toward my goals. When we change that one little I have to I get to, or I have the opportunity, or I'm able to, that's when we can start to really see that mindset shift. Okay. Tonight, I want to talk about really getting into the scripting and the writing and making sure you're planning out your day. I was at a leadership training yesterday, and the gentleman that was training talked about the first 15 minutes of his day. And you've heard me talk about this. There's tons of books out there on this. One of my mentors wrote a book literally called The First 15, and it is phenomenal. But the gentleman that was leading the training yesterday was talking about the first 15 minutes of your day. So take whatever time you normally wake up, set your alarm 15 minutes sooner. And it's I get to do this. I get to wake up and plan my day ahead of time. And what he does is he has a journal. So again, scripting, it's all relative, right? It's all in how you look at it and what works best for you. So he gets a journal, a notebook, and he writes out 15 goals for the day. And these are not goals that he's going to get done that day, but 15 goals that he's working toward. Okay, you can take it and start with just 3 to 5. But he writes those goals out. And then after he writes the goals out, he does a little bit of gratitude practice, a few affirmations. So those are your I am statements. The I do love green vegetables. The I am achieving my goals. I am powerful. I am worthy of reaching my goals. Those are the affirmations there. Okay. And so all of that leads to his scripting, right? It's all there. The goals, the affirmations, and he really takes time to focus on getting that mental state right. And then he's able to start his day on a positive note. Now, mind you, what I didn't mention was picks up his phone, goes on Facebook, goes on Instagram. We all know that these are practices that we don't need to be doing. Doesn't mean we don't all do it sometimes. Absolutely, that's the first thing I do sometimes. Most of the time, I try to have a habit. And so for the first about hour or two of the day, the only thing I use on my phone is my YouTube for my motivational videos that I listen to. It's the only thing. I don't look at text messages. I don't look at Facebook, email. I don't look at any of it. Now that takes discipline, because when I first started, I couldn't pick up my phone without looking at social media, looking at text messages, right? It's how we do things. That's second nature. So it took some training there of not looking at my phone at all to getting a notification to pop up to where when my phone's locked, the notification on YouTube comes up that that's the video I want. So I just click on it and then it plays other videos related to it. So that's how we can curate our morning routine. Start with just 15 minutes. And that's exactly how I started my Health Accelerator journey. It was wake up 15 minutes earlier, not 5 minutes before I have to be out the door to get to work on time. It was wake up 15 minutes earlier, and then quickly added, hey, I'm going to go to the gym before work. So I need to wake up in time to get up and prepare my breakfast if I'm going to take that with me. So you see how it's just building blocks. These are all things that I did and I added to my routine so that now I have a rock solid morning routine that takes about 2 hours, sometimes 3, just depending on what it is I'm doing. And this is a rock solid morning routine that is non-negotiable. And this is something that you can begin to curate if you haven't already. Writing those things and starting our day off on a positive note is where we really start to see that progress internally. And then a lot of that allows the external stuff to let go. I will never forget my dad, actually, as he was filling out his food log. He's writing his weight at the top of it every morning. And he started writing, he was 100 pounds less. So the number in front was supposed to be a 2, but he was writing a 1, the very first number. And he didn't even realize it until he took it to Catherine. I will never forget this story because it's just funny because he would say it. That's what he was working toward. And so he just started writing that as his weight on the body weight section of his food log. And I remember sharing that story with one of my clients. And then it was funny because I started to see her do that as well in her food log. And she would catch herself and you could see where she had scratched out the number where she was going and she wrote it as what it really was. And I would laugh every time I would see it because I knew what she had done. And it's funny how that subconscious just really starts to buy in to what we're feeding it. And so that's why it's really important that we are only taking in the things that we want our subconscious to understand. Okay, so I want you to get something to write with. We're going to do something really quickly. It's going to be a very short exercise, but I want you to draw a circle. All right. And I want you to draw like a peace sign on it. So divide it into 3 sections. So like a 3 pie section. Okay. So draw a circle, divide it, draw it like a peace sign where it's, you've got the 3 sections. All right. And then I want you to write process in one of the pieces. Okay. So the process, remember, we trust the process. Okay. And then I want you to write activity or application, either way, in the next one. Okay, so you've got the process, right? We have a trusted, proven process. All right, then we have the application of the process or applying the process. Okay, so then in the last piece of the pie, I want you to write me or you, the you factor. Okay, so this is really when it becomes, you've got the process, you've got the application, you have to have the you factor. You have to apply the you factor, which means find out what works for you. That's when you're going through the process, you're getting the education, you're following the 7-step signature process. So you're getting the education, you're doing the accountability, you're getting the behavior modification going, you're applying these things, but you have to have the you factor because everyone is just a little bit different. And so how we apply these things, maybe it works best for you to work out in the evenings. Maybe it works best for you to work out in the mornings. Maybe it works best for you to script at night or script in the morning. Okay, these are the things that you have to develop and figure out by trial and error. Okay, these are the things that create that process over time. So you have the outline of the process, we know how to apply it, but then you have to add in the you factor to really bring it all together to reach your goals and see the success and take it a step further and be able to maintain your success. Because it's one thing to just do what somebody says for a certain amount of time, but when you're not really learning it, you're not applying the you factor, you're not making it personal, it doesn't stick long term. And when we want long term success, you've got to have the you factor. You have to make it personal. And so that you factor not only includes what works specifically for you within the process and the application, but it's also your why that we talk so extensively about. The you factor is the education. What works great for you? I know that if I need to drop a few pounds really quickly, maybe for a competition coming up or something, fish and egg whites. It's a game changer for me. It's a game changer for most, but definite game changer for me. If I just need to clean it up really quickly for something. How do I know that? Because I've applied the you factor. I have figured out my formula that leads me to success. I have figured out that if I wake up 3 hours before I need to be somewhere, I'm going to have a phenomenal day with all the energy I need. But I've also figured out if I don't do that, then people comment, "Hey, you look tired today. Are you okay? Hey, you're usually full of energy. What's going on? Are you all right?" This happened 2 weeks ago because I wasn't feeling well. I had a little bit of a cold after my weightlifting competition. And that was the first thing somebody said when I showed up to my networking meeting was, "Hey, you look more tired than normal. Are you okay?" And I was like, "I actually got more sleep than I normally do." I said, "I'll tell you what's wrong. I didn't go to the gym this morning." And it was a planned day off, but it was still not my normal routine. And so that's just how it was. And those were the comments I got. But the comments I consistently get when I'm doing my 3-hour morning routine is, "Wow, you're glowing. Wow, you look great. Wow, you have so much energy. Wow, I can see when you walk into a room, the energy is contagious in a good way." But these are the kind of comments, and you start to notice that you figure out what works for you. What is your you factor? My you factor is getting up and getting my morning routine done. But if you do nothing else, that 15 minutes that we talked about is a total game changer. You write 15 things, or you can start with 3 to 5 goals, but these goals that you're working on, and be as specific as possible. I can't remember who said it. I don't remember if it was Dale Carnegie. I'll have to look up who said it, but I don't remember who said it. Someone else said this, but they said be so specific that you're going to accomplish this goal by 4 p.m. on this date, and this is exactly what it's going to look like. Be as specific as you possibly can. And the reason is because your subconscious then takes that and says, "What do we have to do to hit this goal by this date, this time? And this is the goal that we have to hit." Because if we just want to say, "Someday I would like to do X, Y, and Z," well, when is someday? Someday doesn't exist during the week. And so it's really important that we're as specific as possible. Doesn't mean we're always going to reach our goals by that specific date and time, and that's okay. Just adjust. But that allows it to be concrete so that we can continue to see what it is we're working toward and when we're working toward it for. This is how all my powerlifting stuff works. I know my next competition is May 3rd, noontime on May 3rd. And I know I will probably be in the middle of the pack for the first flight of people that are going to squat. So I will probably start squatting around 12:30. So I know that I can write my goals as specific as possible for that. But this is how it works when we have something we're working toward. We can be very specific, and then the why behind it. Why am I doing it? All right. So create your U factor. That is your goal for the week. Find out what that U factor is. Try a couple of different things if you don't already have something established. If you do, amazing. Get that U factor written out and figure out if there's anything you need to add to it, if there's anything you want to tweak a little bit. Figure out what your U factor is, and you are going to start seeing massive, massive success. All right. So I will see you all back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. And until then, I'll see you in the Facebook group. I'll see you on text messages. And I am wishing you all a massively successful week. If you are needing to get back into an accountability program, so maybe you can figure out what your U factor is, reach out to me. We'll see what makes the most sense as far as programs go for you. But until then, I'm wishing you massive success, and I will see you back here next Sunday,